Hey, good morning, afternoon, or evening, good people, wherever you are, wherever you happen to be, and however we're together. Thanks for being here. I'm Dave, and this is Dave's Head. So, what's in my head? This week marks 14 years since I became a proud brother of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Shout out to my TO. I don't know if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify video or any of the video distribution channels I have. You can see my TO got me a nice little chain I'm sporting today, recording this. But yeah, I'm a proud member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, in case you can't tell. Recently, a pledging hazing incident occurred at Southern University in Louisiana with a fraternity that I won't name, but it resulted in the death of a young man, a young brother, Caleb Wilson. As of now, 3 people have been arrested, 2 turning themselves in, 1 was apprehended. Hazing incidents are an ongoing problem in this country. Between 2005 and 2017, 72 young men died in fraternity-related incidents, according to a book, Fraternity, by Alexander Robbins. Now, it highlights a problem that many GLOs or Greek letter organizations are working hard to remove completely from everything that they stand for. Policies in GLOs typically and clearly state anti-hazing stances. But as is nature, as are humans, people will be people and do what they choose to do, irregardless of those policies, those stances, the known repercussions. But Caleb Wilson did not deserve this at all. It's one of those things where you see these tragedies, and there's all sides of this. There's a bit of overreaction. There's a bit of, and granted, and I say that with a grain of salt, a life was lost. There can be no limit to the ways you react, but overreaction in the sense of there are people now on social media or they have their podcasts and they're talking about all of the D9 need to be disbanded. Get rid of all of them. Just do alumni who handle intake and get rid of fraternities and sororities on college campuses. That's not the answer. And not to parallel this in a way that seems that I'm not empathetic to the situation and the loss of life at all. But it's very similar to the arguments made against gun laws, right? Because every time someone shoots up a school and people like me or people out there in the world or in this country say, hey, we need to do something about the amount of guns in this country, a segment of people immediately go to, oh, they're trying to take our guns away. They're trying to inhibit our Second Amendment rights. No, we're just trying to make sensible moves, actions, laws, whatever it takes to safeguard some of the most precious souls in our country. Most unprotected souls in our country, our children. And if you look at Tesla this past week, and we'll get to some things about that later, there were armed cops standing outside of a Tesla, protecting this Tesla as if it were a school. And that's how it should be protected. Not because anyone actually went and shot up a Tesla or threatened to bomb a Tesla. Maybe they did. Who knows? But there are more cops willing to stand in front and protect a piece of property in a company than I've seen standing out in front of schools where little children are massacred probably once a year, maybe twice a year, depending on what year it is. And every time somebody says, oh, we got to do something to protect the children, don't touch our guns. And so now this reaction of some people, we got to do away with fraternities and sororities. That same energy needs to be applied. The same, whoa, pause. Don't take my liberty away, because ultimately your ability to be a part of a fraternity or sorority is part of your liberty, your choice that's made. Now, this is not to diminish what was done to this young man, both leading up to and the act that actually killed him, and after the act that killed him. Nothing diminishes the disrespect, the disgustingness of those acts. We've got to look at this from two sides. Those people who did those things, who violated the policies of their own fraternal organizations, should be dealt with in that fraternal organization and criminally, because that's deserving of the repercussions that are deserving of them. And on the other side, we can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. We can't just say fraternity sororities need to be done with. We've got to say, what can we do to keep those types of people out of intake processes? And you look at different things and where they're done. Insurance costs. Ask anyone who is privy to that information in fraternities, sororities around this country. Insurance costs skyrocketing because of people like them. Disinterest. Shrinking numbers in many cases because of people like them. Disinterest after you become a member of the organization, the respective organizations, because of people like them. Just like many, many, many times before, hazing is a problem. This is not a D9 or a BGLO, Black Greek letter organization problem. It's not even just a Greek letter problem. My organization that I'm a part of, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, has a model culture for service and service for humanity. That's what it stands for. And so hazing is not part of that whole thing. It shouldn't be. Has it happened? You 100% better believe it has happened. There are people who have participated in these things in illegal ways, both in the organization and criminally, who are, have, and will face repercussions. Hazing incidents, including BGLOs, WGLOs, classrooms, even military, have been happening for years and decades and centuries. Look up the history of hazing. It's on Wikipedia. Look it up. The first recorded was in 1739. 1739. That's not a comical laugh. This is how long it's been going on. 1738, excuse me. I think I said 39. 1738 with the Masons in Philadelphia. Look up the story behind it. Look who testified in that case. Know your history. Learn your history. Want to be educated and informed. We have to do better. Absolutely 100%. We have to do a better job of weeding out people like them who not only risk lives with their actions, with their bravado. I came in this way, so I have to bring somebody in this way. Risking lives, ultimately taking lives. We have to do something about those people. Keep them away from processes. Keep them away from our organization. Respective organizations. There's a lot of good work in the communities being done by BGLOs, WGLOs, GLOs, Masons, military. You go up and down the spectrum of organizations who have processes to get into them. Great work being done in the communities, being overshadowed by pieces of trash like these guys. We have to do better. We have to do better for the Caleb Wilsons out there right now who are thinking about joining these organizations, whose parents are sitting there worried, who may be what many call legacies, right? Maybe parents who are part of these organizations whose son or daughter is thinking about joining, who now has this in the back of their head because they're pieces of trash like these gentlemen. And I'm being nice saying gentlemen, pieces of trash like these pieces of trash who you might receive a phone call for because they may take your child's life. And I don't even want to touch on what happened after the incident because I think that's even more disgusting than the incident itself. We watched a NFL football player for the Buffalo Bills collapse on the field. And granted, I get it. Immediate medical attention, different situation, different health, who knows? Different in so many ways. But what we saw immediately was care and concern for a life. And what happened after this young man went down, and the lack of care and concern and all the different things, changing the clothes, dropping him off on a curb of a hospital, still Do not know and have not been publicized, or maybe I haven't seen it, how long of time went from him hitting the ground in that warehouse to the time he was dropped off at the hospital. And who knows if immediate action was taken, if it might have been just a really bad story with a great ending because someone stepped in to save that man's life. All someone had to do was just do something other than what they did. And maybe this young man could still be alive with a story and a cautionary tale to tell, but alive. We have to do better. Before I get to the last thing that's in my head, Dave's Head Podcast is now a part of the Alive Podcast Network, home of Black voices, where community, culture, and creatives live. Dave's Head Podcast adds to the catalog of over 70 titles available in the Alive Podcast Network and app for both iOS and Android. Check out Dave's Head Podcast and many others in the Alive Podcast app, the home of Black voices. The last thing that's on my mind, and before I get to that, I didn't say rest in peace to Caleb Wilson. I usually say rest peacefully. I don't say rest in peace that often. I say rest peacefully to put the power into the words. But rest peacefully, Caleb Wilson. Consumerism refers to the protection or promotion of the interests of consumers, often emphasizing the power of individuals to influence markets through their purchasing decisions. It can also describe a social and economic system driven by the acquisition of goods and services. In the context of boycotts, consumerism highlights the ability of individuals to flex their economic power by choosing where and how to spend their money. DEI is the hot boogeyman. Boo! Taking, giving, boogeyman. Boo! Topic that's got everyone's attention today. It's used as a Republican talking point. It's used as a rallying cry. It's used to push agendas every which way. It's become so polarizing that not making the right choices, and if the public sees this, can result in economic repercussions. Right? Target boycott. One of those such repercussions is Target. Target made the decision not long after the election to get rid of multiple DEI initiatives, including ending its 3-year DEI goals, a program to invest in Black-owned businesses, and stopping participation in external diversity-focused surveys. On the right, and that's not even the full list of things that were impacted by that decision. On the right, Target has been hit by a lawsuit brought by the state of Florida and others saying investors weren't aware of the risk of Target's DEI initiatives and potential backlash. Investors didn't know. We didn't know when you rolled everything back, our stock would tank and people would stop buying and boycott us and blah, blah, blah. Capitalism, people, come on. On the left, there has been and has started a 40-day boycott of Target over its DEI rollback. Now, repercussions enter the room or into the chat. Stock price for Target has plummeted by $27.27 per share, wiping out, wait for this, $12.4 billion with a B in market value. Say that again. Stock prices plummeted $27.27, wiping out a whopping $12.4 billion in market value. Meanwhile, Costco is surging as consumers flock to their DEI double down. Costco said, we got you. We're sticking with our DEI. And people are flocking to Costco. Look around. And consumerism is in full swing. Amazon, roughly 1 in 10 Amazon shoppers, about 9%, intend to participate in a week-long boycott. Full transparency, I need to find out when this week-long thing is and not shop because it's like every 2 days I'm buying something from Amazon, maybe 3. It's a problem. How easily I find something I need on Amazon, just simply order it. I pay for Prime. It's a perk. What can I say? I am one of 69.8% of the U.S. population. 69.8% of the entire U.S. population. That's almost 7 in 10 who are prime users. 7 in 10. So 1 in 10, 9% say they're going to participate in a week-long boycott. Do not sleep on that number or diminish it because it's only 9%. You're talking 9% of 69% of the population, right? So quick math. Let's say there's 100,000 people in the country. 698,000 are prime users. If you're talking about roughly 10% of that, that's 69,000 people, right? So just thinking about the scale of this. It's not 1,000, it's not 2,000, it's 69,000 people. And this is on that, the number we talked about. Or 6,900. I think I said 69,000. 6,900. So Tesla shares have plummeted 45%. 45, roughly half the value. 45% in 2025 as a combination of boycotts, protests, people selling their trucks, and competition. There are a lot of people who are trying to get away as fast as they can from Tesla. Now, something interesting happened the other day at the White House where it became okay for a sitting president, to endorse a product of a private company of a member of their cabinet. Very interesting. I think I posted on social media that I wish that Obama would have made Damon, and I can't remember his name right now, the full name, Damon, who's the owner of Fubu, made him Treasury Secretary, and then did a whole thrift whatever presentation of Fubu apparel on the South Lawn. Because I would have loved to seen heads explode. I would have loved to seen heads explode all over this country. But it's okay. It's okay today to put a Tesla on the South Lawn and basically do an ad for it. We'll see if there had any impact. Because last time I checked, most of his supporters were bitching and moaning about egg prices and not be able to afford anything. So how are you going to afford a Tesla? I'm not really sure that's going to translate. I don't know. Stable genius, right? Forget the bankruptcies. Now, I don't agree with burning charging stations or any violence, and I'm 100% for capitalism that so many people proclaim to love. Right? I'm so 100% for capitalism working. Your dollars, as I've said, are important. It's your power. Commercialism, consumerism, capitalism. Your dollars, your wallet, it's important. By the way, I've never driven it, but I love the look and feel of it. And again, I'm not advertising here, but just look it up. Look up a video of the features and functions of this vehicle. But there's a Chinese company, Li Auto. They have a L7 luxury midsize crossover SUV. Not currently in the U.S. I'm not sure if it's even legal here. There's some stuff about not. There's a reason why it's not here. There's a lot of people who feel like if this vehicle was in the U.S., Tesla would be put out of business anyway. But if I could, I would buy this thing. I think about $40,000 for this vehicle, which drastically cheaper than the Tesla vehicles, SUVs. And if you look up the video, the features of the L7, you'll go, why would I want to buy a Tesla for basically double the price? Doesn't make any sense. But don't let anyone tell you what to do with your dollars. Despite the narrative, it's not illegal to boycott. It's actually your right to decide what you want to do and not do with your money. Not a soul in this country can tell you otherwise or make you do anything otherwise at all. It's your hard-earned money. It's your credit cards. It's your whatever. You can spend and do whatever you want. The thing is, choices have consequences. And the Targets of the world who decided to roll back DEI initiatives, there's your consequences. People are boycotting you, not buying your products. Shelves are sitting there full of product. Tesla's, got somebody who's doing some really bad things to a lot of people who actually voted for you. And so now there are consequences. You have the power. The consumer has the power, always has, always will, to flex your muscles, your wallet muscles, by choosing to buy or not buy product from people or companies who do not line with your ideology. It's okay. Don't let anyone shame you into doing the opposite of what you desire. Exercising your power, that commercialism, is a beautiful thing. And I love to see it right now because it's making people second guess their decisions. When you have investors suing companies because they weren't made privy to a potential backlash, it's kind of skating on thin ice, right? We voted for this. We empowered these people to make decisions on our behalf. As I keep saying, choices have consequences. And that's what's in my head. So, Afrotech.com published an article back in late January, right after the switching of administrations, entitled The Corporate DEI Divide from Target to Disney. Here are the companies scaling back and the ones doubling down, where they listed companies and what they may be doing as it relates to DEI. And so they talk about Meta, John Deere, Boeing, Walmart, and as we already talked about, Target, who have not kind of rolled back DEI policies, and they touched on Apple, Microsoft, Delta Airlines, Ancestry.com, which by the way I didn't know that one. Who, and in addition to Costco, who we already talked about, who are doubling down on their DEI. And so this nice quote that I took from this article: diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI is like the studio album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Critically acclaimed by some, misunderstood by others, and constant source of debate. Whether celebrated or criticized, DEI has become one of the most polarizing issues in corporate America. And let's be honest, when companies start scaling back on DEI, it's not just a boardroom shuffle. It's a move that disproportionately impacts the Black community. First of all, I don't know why it's debatable about the miseducation of Lauryn Hill. I just want to touch on that for a second. Yeah, I've never heard somebody go, "Oh, that sucks." Yeah, nah. Now whether you get the album, don't get the album, okay, a little different conversation, but yeah, it was a nice stretch. So as these snap decisions, right, in response to pressure from DC, the administration, in response to customers flexing their muscle, like we talked about as well earlier, the power of their wallets matter, and these decisions matter because they shape workplace culture, influence customer trust, and contribute to broader societal progress or lack thereof, as we're seeing these last. It feels like it's been a year, but it's only been like 2 months. But last episode we talked about DEI as well, and we talked about it in a different way. Then we're going to talk about it today. But the reason we're talking about corporate DEI is because I want to bring in my guest for this episode, Randi B. A little bit about her. She's a DEI disruptor, author, speaker, talk show host. She's a renowned speaker, author, and a go-to expert in the inclusivity and diversity fields. Me struggling with words this season. It's just weird. The visionary behind the True Thing with Randi B brand, encouraging everyone to live unapologetically in their own truth, just as she does, and to learn from the truths of others by having open conversations. 22 years leading an award-winning change management company. Her expertise, spans government clients, Fortune 500 companies across 7 countries, and 41 states. She's appeared on various events, shows, and podcasts, including NBC Bay Area, Black Enterprise Women's Power Summit, and Roland Martin Unfiltered. Welcome to Dave's Head, Randi B. How's it going?
It's going very well. Thanks for having me.
No problem. I appreciate you taking time for us little people
Please.
to talk a little bit about some DEI.
I'm the little person, but I'm happy to talk about DEI. Always.
After we're done, you have to compare me to Roland. I just want to see, he's an alpha, I'm a
Okay.
sigma, whatever. But
Okay.
So before we get started, I did give a little intro about you, but like I always love to do with my guests, I love for them to introduce themselves in their own words. So take a moment, tell the people who you are, what you do, what you're about.
Oh, that's so hard to do. I think it's like one of the most difficult questions. Yeah, I was in, I get, we didn't call it DEI, but I've always been interested in how to make teams work better together, to how to make people that are, different, because we're all different, how we, survive in this world together. That's always been my focus. The company I founded, a change management company, it really also was about making environments more conducive to happiness and productivity in various different ways. But literally, the term change management is so broad. After doing what I've done in a traditional sense, like the DEI in a traditional corporate sense, I really became disillusioned with DEI, mean, which is very hilarious now that there's the pushback because DEI didn't really do as much for Black people in particular as they have now marketed as it has. And that's why I became the DEI disruptor. I wanted to disrupt the way DEI was being rolled out and put out in these companies. But so what I've been doing, I created. So I am about truthing, living your truth, being your truth. So I created these truthing cards that are like questions, like conversation questions specifically for Black people. I have the Truthing with Randy B show that's right now on Amazon Prime. All my stuff is in places that were boycotted. So Amazon and Walmart. Um, but which is fine. I mean, I'm fine with no one needs to buy a thing. Yeah, so I'm probably more of a Black activist these days. I mean, my base is in DEI because I do want all people to feel at peace in this world. It should not be a struggle just to be yourself. Like this, that should not be complicated. I should not feel like I have to mask parts of me.
Yeah. No, I had a whole first question lined up, but you touched on something that kind of triggered me a little bit because one of the conversations that happen around DEI all the time is implicitly, overtly, however, depending on the undertones, is that DEI is black people, black people, black people. When you touch on the fact that DEI did not even impact black people the way it should have, or as much as people think it is. So run with that. Talk about
Yeah.
that misconception and what DEI, who really benefited and how.
But if you want my candid truth, which is what I give, DEI was connected with Black people as a marketing ploy. I truly, genuinely believe that conservatives knew that if they attached DEI to Black people and Black people progressing, it would be very easy to dismantle it, to get rid of it, to have people roll it back. I believe had they been honest about what DEI or who DEI has really benefited, it wouldn't have been such the who rah rah, let's get rid of it. DEI, and this is proven statistically, by far, not even close, has really benefited white women. White women have, broken the glass ceiling and been able to be accepted in the workforce. I can tell you at every company I work with, it was very easy for people to set, if you want to call them quotas or goals, about we want to have we want to improve our women leadership, and so that would always be given first to white women, second to Latino women, third to Asian women, and that is statistically who DEI has really benefited the most. Black people, when you look at stats, were the eighth most impacted or helped by DEI initiatives. I mean, we were way down the list. So you're talking about veterans, people with disabilities. I mean, people with when it comes to having children. So it's a very huge misconception that DEI was designed for or dramatically helped Black people. That was not the case. Did it help? Somewhat, of course. I mean, you do want programs and initiatives that say we want to have all people considered for jobs. We want to ensure that when people do the exact same job, they get paid equally. We want to ensure that when people are working a job, that they feel included and not scared to be themselves. That is a blanket that helps everyone when it's included. But as far as who would directly most dramatically affected, it was white women, without a doubt. Not even a question, is inarguable.
Yeah. Oh, they'll find a way to argue. Trust me. Um,
Not factually. They can have
yeah.
opinions.
Hmm.
And listen, I'm not upset about people. Well, it is frustrating now that the
Yeah.
stats have been
Very much.
proven, but
Yeah.
I get why they have it because, like I said, it was a huge marketing campaign to attach it to Black people, so it would be dismantled because people don't have a problem when it comes to Black people and the suffering. In my opinion.
Well, I think with the marketing side, the easiest thing to do is boogeyman a topic or boogeyman a group of people. and say
Yep.
they're ruining your life, they're costing
Yes.
your money you never
Yep.
see, by the way, because we use so much plastic anyway. But um, and so on that boogeyman concept, and also just taking for a moment, you mentioned disabilities, veterans, women having children, or not, I say women, people procreating. Those are some of the things that people don't think about when they think about DEI. So
Right.
if you could give me like your hit list of like one or two things that people would never think about when they're talking DEI that actually gets benefits from DEI.
So when you're talking about, for instance, if I'm saying inclusion, right, and I'm thinking about people with disabilities. So you want to ensure, like, how will the person get into one, a store, right? So if I have a Best Buy or a Target or whatever, is my store accessible for people to come in and use it? So when you go and you see the shopping carts, you see shopping carts that can help someone who is wheelchair dependent, right? You see shopping carts that are the ones that are electric for someone who's wheelchair dependent. You see shopping carts, for instance, that have places to put your children. Right? They weren't always like that way. So I mean, it's inclusive of everybody. But also, if I wanted to work at Target, like the corporate offices, is it accessible where I can go there? If I'm a breastfeeding woman, are there bathrooms that I can go to pump if I need to pump? If I have problems with my sight or my hearing, I mean, closed captioning on the television is DEI. It's like you are trying to make the world accessible to all people. It is considering the sizes of clothes. If you go, I mean, there's many stores you go into, and they only say, "Oh, we only carry to size 16." So DEI is saying, why wouldn't we be size inclusive and consider other sizes? Petite clothing, right? I mean, clothing for people who are, on the shorter side, or it is literally trying. We talk about left hand and right hand people, right? There was when I went to elementary school and high school. I mean, left people who wrote with their left hands were kind of in a bad position because there was nothing designed for them, right? It made it very awkward for them to sit in desks because you had the desk that you just the one wing would come up. So I mean, you know I think what's shocking people is that they don't realize how much we ensure that everybody has places and can participate in this world. We now go on a plane, right? And we see that there are people waiting to with wheelchairs to help people who are, have issues and can't walk. And that's not necessarily just elderly people. People get surgeries. I see people all the time. They got in a skiing accident. You see people on planes, like the nut allergies on airplanes. I'm from the day we used to have nuts, right? But then so many people have severe peanut allergies. They killed nuts for a long time because we wanted people who have nut allergies to be able to fly and fly safely because the nut dust can affect people. It's not as simple as just don't get nuts. So, I mean, almost every aspect, because this is what I do, I can see where, I mean, we can call it DEI, but really where the world has said the world is different. How do we accommodate? Floating holidays. We assume that everyone celebrates Christmas, but what if I'm Muslim? What if I'm Jewish? So I'd like to take these days off instead of these days, which works great for a workforce because then you have all your days covered. Um, but I could go on and on about what DEI covers, and it's more than people see, which is why you're seeing the backlash. It is people can just refer like, oh, now black people can wear braids to work. I mean, that that is like the simplest of things that DEI covers. So it's unfortunate that people don't have a true understanding that the world was designed when you talked about the workforce. They designed it for white men. Like that show Mad Men was very accurate, right? So if a woman went to work, she didn't even have a place to use the restroom. That was separate for her. So allowing there to be women's restrooms are now all gender restrooms, or that's DEI. Didn't exist before.
Hmm.
Work leave for
So
men, like when someone has a baby. I could. I'm sorry. Let me just. I could go on and
yeah,
on.
no,
It's ridiculous. But yeah.
no, I get it. What's interesting to me is I asked for two things, right? And you probably reeled off seven or eight of them,
Sorry.
and probably five of them were things I didn't even think about. No, no, it's no need to be apologetic. It's just it's interesting to me that, and getting back to my boogeyman comment, how something that benefits so many people on so many different levels and in so many different areas has been boogeyman and pigeonholed to this little small group of people um, to do away with it. And even still, I don't think they're necessarily doing away with the benefits of DEI. I think they're more so taking away the ones that are boogeyman and targeting certain people, namely people of color, women, even in that instance, black and white women. And there's a certain segment of people who are getting those benefits exclusively. The rich white men, wealthy white
Well,
men.
the, the interesting thing is that it's white men. 90% of the people you say hear screaming about reverse discrimination and how that's what DEI is. Eh, DEI started because of the place that white men had placed themselves. So today, if you look at the stats, 80, I think it's 88% of all um, upper management, people who work in upper management are white men, right? There. So what DEI was, was to say either you have to assume that only white men are the brightest and most brilliant and the most qualified for these jobs, or you have to be realistic and say we all work from a place of bias when it comes to hiring. And so let's open it up. Let's ensure that we're actually getting the best candidate, the most qualified candidate, because these people don't even know about the jobs. They don't even they're not even aware that these openings exist. And then when they do learn about the jobs, they oftentimes aren't considered because we hire who we like, we hire who we feel comfortable with. So I'm very comfortable saying that if I interview a black woman from an HBCU, I have favoritism. I can't help but to say I could just see myself working with her. Like I love this person. And so I would always have like a diverse panel so I can, somewhat minimize my bias. And we all have them. Everyone in the world has them. So you do things to minimize those biases. And that's just making the world more fair. But again, when you're accustomed to privilege, when people try to right the world, it does feel like reverse racism and discrimination to those who've always been in power. And they're still running the country. I mean, you look at Congress. I mean, there's nothing where you look at the Fortune 500, who's in the C-suite. They're still running things, but they don't like the fact that one person will get an opportunity that's different from them.
I mean, we're still reeling from Obama being president, if we're being truthful.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely,
but
absolutely.
what's interesting is one of the things that you say is you encourage everyone to live unapologetically in their own truth. And to me, isn't that really what this whole anti DEI thing is all about? Whether it's because I look at it, there's three people, right? Three groups of people. There are people on one side who, whether they want to admit it or not, their bias is racially based. Anything DEI is going to be black and brown people related. They don't want it because simply because of that. There's people on the opposite side who, good, right or wrong, and usually right, they want equality. They want to have the same opportunities for black and brown people, and that's their target. And they really don't care about anybody else because they want the catch-up game to be fair, right? They want that opportunity. But then there's these people in the middle who they don't really know enough. They also don't take the opportunity to learn, and they make a lot of assumptions based on what their circle of people say, what news channels they watch, who they allow to influence them, their politicians, whatever, or their, maybe their ideology, how they were raised, religion, whatever. Which's worse? Which group of people are worse? The people who are just, this is just about racism, the people who just want to, have a fair opportunity to play catch up just for black and brown people, or the people in the middle who may be informed, may not be informed. I call them ignorant, non offensively, but it's just, the term, who make judgment calls based on incomplete information.
Uh, I don't like people who work from a place of knowingness who are ignorant. Right? There's so much I'm ignorant about, so much, and this I won't speak about it. I'm very comfortable saying I can't speak intelligently about that. So the people who speak intelligently and spread lies and speak so emphatically about certain issues and don't know, I find to be dangerous, to an extent. Well, yes, they're just dangerous. And it ruins people's lives. So, like when you hear people that don't, we're fine with saying, down with DEI, we should get rid of it. I mean, what happened with, look, what is it, 80,000 veterans were let go? I mean, DEI protected and helped veterans. There was um, when people got out of serving our country. It was a very good pipeline that they would be considered for jobs that oftentimes, sometimes people couldn't. And they were let go because veterans were protected, right? A certain extent. And that's gone. And so people's ignorance is hurting people, um, that they I don't think people were aware of, and that's why you're seeing this. People call it FAFO. You're seeing this like, oh, I didn't know, and they didn't know, but how dare you make such major decisions, and you didn't really know? So Google is free, like they say. You got to look up stuff and you have to realize stuff. And we are in this position today, I feel, because people refuse to research. And it does sound good to say the best qualified should get the job. The thing is, DEI absolutely agrees with that. The most qualified should get the job. The problem is the most qualified haven't been getting the job. The jobs have been given, for the most part, to white males all the way through. The people who've been promoted have been white males. We all agree with the most qualified. We're not even looking at certain schools. Like I know, because I've worked at various, contracted for various corporations, private corporations, because the CEO of the company went to Duke. He does heavy recruiting at Duke University, right? So already there's a bunch of schools that aren't looking at. They're not going to HBCUs. They're not putting the ads in periodicals that we look at. It's completely where it would almost be impossible for us to even learn about the job, much less then get the job, when we're battling against people's biases. So that's what we all want, the most qualified people to get the job, but it hasn't happened. DEI tried to make it happen and level the playing ground a little bit.
Yeah, it used to be racism, overt racism. I think we've seen letters over the years where somebody was denied from a university, and I forget the name of the guy, but literally told him, "You're black, you can't come here."
Harvard.
Um, and then it kind of morphed to nepotism, right? In different forms of nepotism, whether it's keep it in the family, keep it in university, it's all forms of nepotism. And so,
Over a third of the students at Harvard are legacy.
yeah,
How can a black person or an immigrant compete with legacy when we weren't admitted to the schools? But
yeah,
for some reason, they don't qualify that as privilege or unfair. I don't get
yeah.
it.
It is interesting, and this is a completely side topic. We went from saying that education, the Ivy League schools were quote unquote woke, right? To now that they either have or had, depending on where we are with the schools, DEI programs. Suddenly, they're not. It's not. They're not woke as far as education location or institution. Now they're pushing the black narrative, or they're pushing DEI. So now we're going to strip funding from you. Before, these same places that had the legacy enrollment, they were okay. We still give federal funding, but now that they have DEI programs, now we want to strip federal funding from them. It's interesting because I thought woke was bad the entire time, right? Just my 2 cents.
Absolutely. And what's funny about what's happening with the schools is I swear with everything is that it's backlash really on Asian students. Asian students were recruited to take part in these affirmative action cases, and now they're upset because I really believe that when they were going by test scores and things like that, Asian students. I mean, you look at University of California, that used to be um, the haven. White people love UCLA and all these schools, and then when they started uh, having DEI programs, ensuring they were looking at people from across the world and going by test scores. I mean, going by actual uh, qualified. It became very Asian heavy populations. And what I would tell you as a person who lived in California for 16 years, white people were very upset and are still very upset. Um, it's really they're trying to change the rules to ensure that that they keep in power, and there's no other way to mix that. And so yes, black people are affected, but like I said, when they got rid of these programs, all people are being affected. All
Mm.
Everybody unless you're white and male
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
heterosexual.
Yeah. I forget the name of the school, and I forget the name of the celebrity who was put in jail a couple years ago. Basically, a case of nepotism where they were trying to get their son or daughter into a certain
Oh
school, and they were
yes.
paying for this and doing all that. It was probably the only case I can remember where privilege, nepotism just didn't work. Like it didn't matter that you were who you were. Um, just interesting. Just popped in my head when you were
Well,
talking about
that's
that.
just because though, but because this it was one guy
Yeah.
who did it for hundreds over the years.
Hmm.
So they got caught eventually, but by this time, he had already done hundreds of people.
Yeah. And I mean, just think about it too. Hundreds of people all benefited. They're graduate. They're in C corp. They've already got their benefits. I mean, yeah, their parents might be in jail for a couple of years. They're still rich. He's still rich. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
little inconvenience. That's all it was.
yeah.
But talking about race and talking about being unapologetically living in your own truth and comfort, what's your best advice, corporate or not corporate, for getting past the discomfort that exists talking about race? Um, as we know, there's some people that can have conversations and talk about it and exist in the world and all that. And there's some people who literally shriek from the conversation of race, especially in corporate settings, but also personally.
Well, so I believe the power is actually just living it. Not really having to talk about it all the time, but just being who you are. Just comfortably. I don't think that we recognize how much we mask who we are. And when I say that, people will say, um, they act like being black is not professional, right? All of us, when we go to work, regardless of race, regardless of gender, we have a professional side. Right? You're professional, but I don't think there's anything wrong with being who you are, with your hair being naturally who it is, or talking about if someone says. 'Cause I used to tell people, when someone asked what you did over the weekend, people would purposely leave out their very black stuff. Like they won't say, I went to this, you know, and I think it's okay to I think that is actually being yourself is the greatest revolution is a quote that I really stand by. I think that the choice is up to us if we have conversations about race. I feel it's not my responsibility to discuss race with people just because I'm black. I think an unfair burden has been placed upon us that we have to be educators. Again, Google is free. If people care, they can read books. They could watch videos. There's a lot of people out there like me, they can watch if they care. Um, and when you do want to discuss race, I always tell people, you never start in an accusatory tone. If you say, you're racist, I told I said the conversation's over. It's over once you say you're racist. It's done. But if you can say, I'd like to have a conversation with you about something that concerns me. I know it may be uncomfortable, but I value this relationship. I would start any tense conversation that way. Let's talk about this and let me give you some perspective on how I'm feeling. I don't know what the issue is, but it's okay not to talk about it, is the first thing I would pronounce.
Gotcha. I was looking up while you were talking because I couldn't remember her name right now. But there's this whole thing speaking about blackness and being black or professionally black. Jasmine Crockett, um, who's a Texas 30th congressional district
My
representative.
girl. That's my girl.
Yeah, we all lived through her. Trust
Ah,
me.
yes.
So this narrative that's come out the last week or two, it's kind of been under the radar for a little while. But the last couple weeks, because she's just going ham, like she's been going nuts for weeks.
Speaking the
And
truth.
was it bleach bot? I'm not going to say that. I can't even
Yeah.
think of it as right now. Um, so there's this narrative that she's uneducated, ignorant, thug, all this stuff's coming out. And I saw a meme that kind of reeled through her qualifications, and I'm like, how is this even part of the narrative? I mean, if you just go through and I encourage all the viewers, watchers, or listeners to go through and research her background. I believe she's law degree, passed the bar,
Yeah.
multiple degrees, all this stuff.
But
The
yeah,
woman is smart.
extremely
And
educated.
so she's also very well informed, keeps herself very well informed.
Absolutely.
If you actually notice when you see these viral videos of her, she's not looking down and reading that much unless she's
No.
quoting something.
I've
This
met
is
her.
all from the brain.
I've
Oh,
met her.
really?
She's sharp. I don't know if I've ever met a black person that has not been called ghetto or treated as if we're less. That is white supremacist language,
Mm-hmm.
that unfortunately some non-white people, including black people, pick up. That's actually one of the ways to me that I freed myself from having to mask who I was, because I learned very quickly, regardless of how I carried myself, how I spoke, how educated I was, how many books I wrote, how many, companies I started, to some, I would be classified as ghetto, as uneducated, as, whatever, all the terms they use. What's interesting is, I have a Facebook page, and it's a very active Facebook page, and I get white people on there every day attacking white supremacists, attacking the posts that make them go off. Jasmine Crockett, Michelle Obama, Whoopi Goldberg, any black woman I post, Kataji Brown. I mean, any black woman, they come, they swarm. They call her ghetto. They call her man. All of them, manly, uneducated. If you remember, they used to call Barack Michelle's baby daddy. Now, here they've been married forever. Um, the, you just have That's just a part of racism. They're going to attach it to you, which is the freedom. Because I'm like, you might as well be yourself, because they're going to talk badly about you and judge you anyway. Those who are uneducated, and by uneducated, I'm talking about ignorant. I don't care. I'm not talking about degrees. I'm talking about just mean and hateful people. So to me, I find it freeing to go ahead and be myself, because the ones who aren't going to like you aren't going to like you regardless. Um, and with Jasmine Crockett, someone wrote this. It was another meme that came out. They're dogging her now because they have found out her pedigree, and because she actually went to a very elite private school, even in high school, right? And they're trying to say she's cosplaying ghetto.
Mm. I'm like, I don't even understand how you win in this. How am I supposed to win in this
You
situation?
don't
I'm being
win.
myself. Yeah.
You don't win, which is why you don't try to win. You just be
Yeah.
yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
so black women are, if we speak out, if we're outspoken, they call us ghetto. Like, that's going to happen. If we're quiet, they say we have a nasty attitude. There is no win. So let don't participate in the race. Like, because there is no win. That's why I released it. You can have a black man who is in a suit and successful and speaks a certain way, and they'll call him an uppity Negro. They need to knock him down a few pegs. And if you wear twist in your hair and just have, I don't know, whatever you're wearing, you're ghetto. There, the system is designed to always make you feel uncomfortable with who you are if you are a black person. And so we must release it. You will exhaust yourselves in trying to be acceptable. And I find it, you look at people like Barack Obama and, past President Barack Obama. eh, he kind of had the whole spectrum of who he could be, and they called him everything from an uppity nigger to ghetto. He's not American. He's not black enough. He's not what. That's what I mean about truthing. Like, go ahead and release the blood pressure that we get, from this dance that we can't
Yeah.
ever win.
Yeah. I always say the creativity that's used to try to bring someone down actually to me tells me how great someone is.
Yes.
Um, I mean, they just touching on Barack because every time I talk about the way somebody looks, I always come back to the tan suit incident, which is
Hmm.
probably one of the most hilarious things. Because I remember actually watching all the news networks just because curiosity, which is annoying for me sometimes, but I wanted
Same.
to see how this was all reported and talked about. And what happened that was unexpected was the amount of comedy I got from it. Because you turn on the CNNs and they're barely talking about it. MSNBC is like, I can't believe Fox is talking about it, and you turn on Fox and there's like whole segments about this tan suit,
Yeah.
and it just the the red faced and just the vitriol. I'm just like, it's a tan suit, like
Same with
dude.
Michelle Obama with her arms out.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, but even Jasmine
but
Crockett, I mean, they put a lot of attention on her eyelashes. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they talk about her eyelashes ad nauseum, and you know, and then try to put her down. And you have Bobert or whatever her name is. I think she has a GED. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
literally think she has a GED.
Yeah.
And so can we be concerned about that? But
Mm-hmm.
you know, it is what it is for us,
Yeah.
right?
But
And
it's comical sometimes though. It's
it's
comical and sad,
it
but
is
comical.
it is quite,
Yeah.
and but
I
enough.
just I just wish it I wish the comedy translated I should say into lack of progress for this narrative and lack of progress for people who push this stuff.
I
But
think that it
we
has.
don't.
I think that we need to look as how far we've come. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I tell people I was just at the Wizards game the other day, and I'm looking at all the hairstyles. Like the brothers
Mm.
have their hair all different types of ways,
Yeah.
and I said that did not exist.
Yeah.
Um,
Allen Iverson.
right, that was a big
Yeah.
deal when he had his
Yeah.
braid like cornrows. That did not exist, and so I think black people are saying, you know what? I'm gonna wear weave if I want to. I'm gonna wear braids if I want to. I'm gonna wear cornrows. I'm gonna wear twists. I'm going to do my hair as I want to do it. And that hair shouldn't be a big deal, but I think it's symbolic of the shift that is happening. And they can call us ghetto, they can do whatever they want, but we've changed.
Yeah. Shout out to Bubba Chuck, by the way. Um, no, I'm perfectly fine. Listen, I'm gonna say this with all due respect for everyone out there who wears eyelashes. We can't change like the entire like lighting out in the world when like they can't be that long. It bothers me. And
Right, but
and the ones on.
the thing that's interesting to me though is there are many styles and fashion
Hmm.
statements that I don't care for on
Yeah.
men.
Yeah.
On, you know what I mean? Like I have my preferences. I don't like men who wear muscle shirts past the time they should. I'm like, I can tell that this person at one time was a star football player and he had
Hmm.
the arms, but you don't have 'em now. It's just like an arm.
Kind of
But
flabby.
I'm not, it is not my, I don't care. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it's not my man doing it, right? Like
Yeah.
I let it go. I think that people's, this is DEI. I think people's comfort with commenting on women's looks is sexism, right? And it's interesting because men feel comfortable doing it, um, as if they are perfect to us. And I don't think we do it to the extent, but that's sexism. And then it, you know, like, but we're all affected. So then women are sexist too, because we'll talk about what other women have and we'll tear each other down. Uh, what we hope to get to a world is if you like it, I love it, right? If it works for you, I love it. And so, you know,
Gotcha. Can we
yeah,
can we agree though? Those eyelashes on cars we need to stop it.
yeah,
Like,
I'm in DC, so I don't think it's popular here. I have seen that
oh
down south.
Lord, yeah, I don't understand why cars need eyelashes, but hey, like you said,
But
if
listen,
you like it, I love it.
right. I mean, just like I used to tell when I used to see the signs that say, children aboard, that was
Mm,
very famous. I'm like, so
yeah,
what am I supposed to be like a better driver now because you have kids? Like, I don't want to kill anybody on these roads.
yeah,
But,
yeah,
people do their things. But God,
yeah. No, I hear you. Um, so inclusivity, in organizations. A lot of work you've done in that area. Just a couple minutes. What would you say are signs of an organization that might have an inclusivity problem?
most do.
Mm,
When people don't feel comfortable sharing a dissenting opinion,
mm,
I mean, a dissenting opinion, excuse me, a
mm.
dissenting opinion,
It's weird. I knew
when
what you meant, and I heard differently,
yeah,
but I
you heard,
still
thank you
processed the
for
word.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will look, and I will make up a word. Like I will make up a word. Um, when you don't have work groups that are diverse, right? So you're not getting the. Interesting to me. Like there'll be work people who work in, like, let's say the Amazon factory who stuff the bags, right? And they'll make a whole decision about how the bag should be stuffed, and they don't have one person that stuffs bags in those meetings because they don't include them because they feel like they're not at the pay grade, or but they're the ones doing it. So in an inclusive work environment, everyone feels as if in some area, their opinion, their work product, who they are matters, and they're included in certain things. Um, but that's hard. I mean, I told people I remember when I got pregnant, on purpose, married, um, and I hid that pregnancy. I think I was till I was 7 months because I knew that I would not be included in for consideration for jobs, right? For promotions. I really felt I had worked in DEI long enough, that's we didn't call it then, to know that it would exclude me from certain considerations. That should not be. I wasn't living and walking in my truth then, right? That should not be. I know I have friends who are gay, proudly gay, at home and on the weekends, but they do not in any way make mention, even when it's like an obvious thing. They're not going to put a picture of their partner on the desk, um, because they feel as if they would be excluded from consideration from certain positions. Because if the CEO of the company is obviously uncomfortable around people in the LGBTQIA community, they're not going to want to work next or with this person. So, people should feel as if a toxic work environment makes people feel excluded.
Hmm. Yeah, I didn't think about like now I haven't been in an office, working in an office in a long time since before COVID. Went
Same.
back into the office after COVID for like 2 weeks. People complain fully 100% now. But so I haven't thought about the dynamics of an office and putting plants up and pictures and those types of things in a long, long time. But what that sparked in my head was not thinking about that whether you're gay, straight, whether you might have interracial family, putting those signs of your life outside of work in your cube, your office, whatever, is kind of like a rite of passage of working in office. You decorate your space, you make it your own. You bring people who you work with into your world outside of work by putting pictures of your family up, and not to be able to feel comfortable in doing that. It's not something that really crossed my mind. Again, I'm detached from that office work life at this point. Um, but yeah, that's got to be hard.
Yeah, but and when we talk about inclusion, really, even we talk about outside the workplace, Dave, like you talk about going to a restaurant. Most restaurants now are going to have vegan or vegetarian dishes because they recognize that this world is diverse in our eating habits. They will say they are not offended if you say, "Can I get that dish without cheese?" They will ask you what your allergies are. That is all DEI. I mean, you could call it what you want, but that's DEI. Like, we want to ensure that we are including the diverse taste, diet profiles, allergy profiles that we have that come to this restaurant. Some people like their steak medium rare. Some people like it, burnt to a crisp. And they ruin that steak. I judge them. No, I'm just kidding. But you know, you try to be inclusive of all people. There's a reason that they have children's menus, and they don't. And I tell people it annoys me when I go to certain restaurants and there's kids there because they clearly were not trying to include kids. There is no kids menu. Why? They didn't want them there. It's not that kind of environment. But so it is. I mean, DEI is in every little thing that we do every day. I mean, there's a reason why, uh, you know, I was just walking, and there's certain parts of the sidewalk that have painted yellow. I mean, it's in everything that we do, and it's and that's what's interesting to me is that the people who are fighting against it are oftentimes the ones to me who are the greatest abusers of it. Like I used to live in this town called Marin County, extraordinarily white, extraordinarily upscale. And I said, let those women go into a restaurant and they don't have alternative milk, honey. I mean, that baby, like that would be a crime to them. So the fact that they would be against that, perhaps the people could hire someone that has, pink hair or a tattoo on the neck or LGBTQIA or is an immigrant who speaks English as a second language, just smacks in the face of all the inclusion and all the privilege that they experience and demand.
Yeah, speaking of paint, and not to change the subject real quick, over my shoulder here, you see my picture in DC on Black Lives Matter Street. I don't know if it's called Black Lives
Yes.
Matter Street. And recently, it came to light that essentially from pressure from the administration, that's going to be painted over. And I'm like, when you said that, my eyes shot right there. And I'm like, at least I was able to get there and take a picture. Not that the picture is the most important part; it's obviously the message. But it's saddening that DEI is being used to destroy certain things like that as well.
It's very sad. What I do tell people is, though, that that is performative DEI
Mm-hmm.
in a way. You know, when people
Mm-hmm.
put that stuff, and it's nice. Do not get me wrong. I appreciate it, but
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be Black Lives Matter Plaza for Black people. With my grandchildren, they're gonna say they're
Yeah.
gonna say, "Mama, Grandmama, where are we meeting you? I'm at the corner of Black Lives Matter
Mm-hmm.
Boulevard
Yeah.
and K Street." I mean, that's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
Black Lives Matter Boulevard. I mean, Plaza forever. They can paint over, they can do what they want, but it is what it is. Just like they were
Yeah.
saying, they were getting rid of Black History Month, you know, and Women's
Mm-hmm.
History Month and Pride Month, but it's not going to stop people from celebrating.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. What popped in my head while you were saying that in Philly, there's Columbus Boulevard, which used to be Delaware Avenue years and years ago, and I people we just call it Delaware Avenue. I'm not gonna call it Columbus Boulevard.
Right,
It's like tapping Mac, like you're old school. You don't go to the ATM, you tap Mac. But anyway,
right.
aging myself.
We don't have Ronald Reagan Airport. It's DCA or National. We don't call it
Yeah,
Ronald Reagan here. Yeah,
exactly. And I forget it's even Ronald Reagan until you said that.
right. We
But
don't use that.
yeah. So before we switch to the next part of my segment, talk about your Truthing Amazon TV series and what do you want viewers to come away with? I could do the description, or I could let you run with it.
Yeah. Like I said, I think that part of who I am, the best parts of me came from growing up, you know, because our families are typically diverse, right? You know, you have your country cousins, your city cousins, you know, you got the rich auntie, you got, you know, you have just the diversity. And
Got
my
the creepy
family would,
uncle.
what uncle?
The creepy uncle.
The creepy uncle, yeah, that always exists.
Yeah.
Um, and so we would get together, of course, as holidays, and my family would debate. I mean, the debates would become loud, and that's how you like earned a right to leave the children's table because you could hold your own in the conversations. And I learned so many different perspectives that way, and I feel as if that we um, bond that way and learn that way and grow that way and get empathy from doing these having these conversations. And because of like social media, and don't get me wrong, I'm big on social media as far as I love it, but we start now we're talking about like who's you know what's going on with Halle Berry and whatever his name, DDB's baby daddy, and all this stuff we talk about that just doesn't matter. And I think we got to get back to having some real conversations. So I created choosing cards, 100 cards just for Black people to get conversations started. Have two sets of those. Third set is for everybody. Everybody can talk, have these conversations. But then I would have these conversations, and you know, it was like this could be a show. I would just and so we filmed people talking, and so like for instance, we had should we stop saying the N word, and we have like old school rappers like Eric Sermon, you know, having conversation with D1, a current rapper, and Squiggy, and you know, a publicist who's big with rappers, and we're discussing should we stop saying the N word and hearing different perspectives. And no one's wrong, right? It's just conversation. And I watched it like there were real bonds and made at that time because you're hearing other you know a person's perspective and we grow, and I just want other people to hear these conversations and start conversations that matter within our community. So that's what's on Amazon Prime right now. It's called Truthing, and it's four episodes of these conversations that I have all the time. I'm always doing Truthing all the time.
I don't know if I could do a show with all the conversations I have, both in and outside of my head. To tell you the truth, because people might see me differently, and not in a positive way, just in a weirdness level way. I laugh at the things I probably shouldn't laugh at. I cry in the movies. I cry for random reasons.
I like
You
that
know,
though. I think we need to see. I think that's powerful. I love now the complexity that our people are giving
mm,
characters in movies and shows like that. We see Black men crying.
yeah,
We see the vulnerability. I think that's so powerful because we had this long stretch where Black men always had to be hard, and
hmm
I think that's damaged Black men. So I'm loving that they're showing the true complexity of us. So I think it would be
hmm
great. I think
yeah.
you should come on a truthing session, Dave.
Uh oh. Yeah, I don't want me talking to her. So
I
no,
do.
So real quick, when you said had to be hard, the first image popped into my head was James from Good Times,
Yeah.
because I grew up on Good Times. And
James Amos.
listen, yes, you had to be, you had to be like James. You had to raise
Yes.
your family like James. And then Cosby Show came out, and it was a whole different fatherhood, and that's a whole nother episode. We could talk about the
Yes, that's
progression
it.
of
But it
black
is. It goes
sitcoms.
back to what we said, where white people had tried to convince us that Bill Cosby show was unrealistic and didn't reflect
Hmm.
black people. And I'm like, I know James Evans and I know Mr. Cosby. I knew both kinds of dads, and both and
Hmm.
black people have that experience. Like, stop letting other people define who we are.
Yeah.
That's the one thing.
Yes. Absolutely. So that's all for the interview session with my guests. And like I always do, want to move to first thoughts with my guests. First thoughts, first of all, is brought to you by a Live Podcast Network. Dave's Head is a part of the Live Podcast Network, now home of Black Voices, where community, culture, and creatives live. Dave's Head podcast adds to a catalog of over 70 titles available on the Live Podcast Network and app, both on iOS and Android. Check it out. So, first thoughts, by the way, for those who have not tuned in or watched before, I give my guest a word or a phrase to get their first thought. Now, obviously, Randy is not privy to this because that would ruin the whole idea of first thoughts. So, Randy, are you ready for some first thoughts?
Sure,
We've been all around this, I feel like, so I feel like
we
this
have.
should be right up the alley. First thought, unapologetically black. What's your first thought?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I, Releasing, taking off the mask, releasing the muzzle,
Hmm.
just believing that who you are, who you were uniquely designed to be, is right.
Hmm.
There's nothing about you that needs to be explained, muted, diluted, or apologized for. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the power. That's what we all should be trying to get to.
Yeah. Or as you say, yeah.
Yes.
All right. Next first thought. Affirmative action. What's your first thought?
The first emotion I felt was a heavy sigh, as you
Mm-hmm.
probably saw and felt. When the Supreme Court, you know, you have Justice Thomas, who has benefited greatly from affirmative action. What
There's
they
my side for
basically
that one.
said that when they came with the decision to say essentially that we live in a colorblind society,
Mm-hmm.
was is a summary. We live in a colorblind society, so there is no reason to ever create programs or doing set asides or anything based on someone's race, and to do so is discriminatory. Grinds my gears probably more than anything else.
Yeah.
This country will not accept the history that we have. You cannot have a country that is made up of people who enslaved people and those people who were enslaved, and say that we're starting off on equal footing. There's a 400-year head start.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reason why affirmative action started essentially was, again, to create a level, just to level the playing ground, to
Mm-hmm.
create some equality. And it wasn't done well or effectively. It certainly didn't give us what we deserved, but it was something. But then to
Mm-hmm.
then suggest that this world is colorblind
Yeah.
is preposterous. Is preposterous. And that ruling is what has justified the actions of cutting all these DEI programs, although it affects more than race
Mm-hmm.
today. And so it is heartbreaking, disgusting
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah. I don't really talk about Clarence Thomas too much, just because it's pointless at this point to even try to rationalize his existence. Um, yeah. Now I'll leave it at that. Infuriating is probably a good descriptor. We'll just say that. All right. Last first thought. Never saves. What's your first thought?
Well, it's a term I made up.
Hmm.
I
I
told you
know.
I
That's
made
why I
up some
pulled it.
words. I told you
That's
I
why I
made up
used
some
it.
words. What came to me as I've done all my years in the diversity, equity, inclusion field was how brilliant Black people and Black parents are. Because what we do, and not just Black people, but that's what I'm talking about right now, because that's my experience. We have most of us have been given the secondary education of how to survive in this world that is run by white
Mm.
people in this white society, right? So we were told what not to say and what to say. What I recognize is that privileged people, white people, never had to learn because they could say what they wanted to say and do what they wanted to do. And now that the world has become increasingly diverse, this is why they're complaining. They now too have to learn what they can and can't say. And I realized they were really ignorant. You had people who were brilliant, right? But they didn't
Hmm.
know what they could and couldn't say. And so they would say things like, I don't even see you as black, or I don't see color, and all these offensive things. And I'm like, let me teach you the never says,
Hmm.
because you
Yeah.
never learn stuff that you never, ever, ever should say under any circumstances. They would say to me, but no, I was like, no, never, never say this, never, ever. And so that's where I came up with the term and trying to educate them so they could work in a more diverse world. The interesting thing to me about diversity, equity, and inclusion, I tell people it hurts them. It's interesting to me. Some white people are fighting for this privilege and they want to get rid of DEI. I'm like, okay, well, raise children who are ignorant. Send little Timmy to school and let him come out his mouth wrong and tell me how it works for you. Let Timmy go to work and say some of the things that you haven't been trained to say and let me know how it works. You better
Yeah.
get your education up because this world is diverse and that can't be legislated.
Hmm.
You cannot out legislate diversity.
Yeah, one of my, I don't want to say my favorite conversations, but most interesting conversations I like to have with people is a conversation on code switching, especially when there's someone who, again, not the disrespectful meaning, but the uninformed meaning, ignorant to the concept, the idea, the impact, all those things around code switching, even why people even feel the need to do it. It's because it's both, it's the white people and it's also black people, who you may sometimes need to code switch around, and it's the whole meaning and purpose of it, right? You have your professional Dave, you have your personal Dave, you have your hood Dave. You have all these different Daves, and it's the very definition of code switching. But obviously, the start or the foundation of it was talking about corporate existence, how you exist in a world that's not made for you, not built for you, who you can easily be kicked out of because you don't code switch properly. Um, but it's one of those conversations I enjoy having, because it gets a lot of wow moments out of it, right?
Yeah.
Um, I had no idea that was happening. I had no idea you had to do that.
That's
Yeah.
actually one of the episodes that we talk
Ah.
about code switching. And someone said, I don't code switch. And we'd say,
Hmm.
yes, you do.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Yes, you do. So, yeah.
Yeah. I've been called corporate, by people in a derogatory way,
Yeah.
even because of the way I carry myself, the code switching I'm able to do, the fact that I even have a podcast and have people of, I'll say, dissenting life views
Yeah.
is a good way to put it. Because I embrace those conversations with people who I completely and utterly disagree with, I get called corporate a lot. And corporate's become the new, you know, coon or all the other things that we say about ourselves sometimes.
One thing I think Black people need to work on, this is why I believe in the truthing conversations, is we need
Mm,
to broaden our definition of what it means to be Black. I don't know
mm,
why we would try to make it such a limited thing. White people,
yeah.
you ain't never gonna hear no white person say, well, you ain't really white.
Mm,
Why would we limit ourselves?
yeah.
That's insane, right? Okay, Clarence Thomas, someone who has no desire to be considered Black. I understand if we say, okay, we're just done with him. But Black looks and acts and is all things. All things should be open to us. Don't
Mm,
ever limit us, ever.
yeah. I ain't black. I'm OJ. But rest in peace to him anyway. Um, so that's all for first thoughts. What I started last season was actually giving an opportunity to my guests to reverse the playing field and throw me a first thought. So if you had a first thought for me, what would it be?
Code switch, because we just talked about it. I want to hear your thoughts.
Code switching. I'd say it can be. It's weird that what popped in my head because again, I laugh at things I shouldn't laugh at, um, and certain things are serious way more than others. But I think code switching. I think it's because I have a long career of doing this. Right. I think it can become secretly fun to do it around people who don't know that you're doing it. And what I mean by that is you're in
Yes.
situations at work, professional life, where you have given this idea of yourself to people who believe that's who you are, even though it's completely the opposite of who you are, and it's 100% a code switch. And they're absolutely surprised when your environment's outside of that corporate world, and you look forward to those moments where you get to just walk into somebody and be 100% authentic, knowing that it's going to be a complete flip of what you've been around them professionally. And I enjoy that. I don't know why I enjoy that. I enjoy walking up to people and,
It's
you know,
power.
yeah, it's power because now you know who I really am, and now you know how I'm just not choking the hell out of you right now at work, or I'm not telling you the hell off at work because you now you know that the person that I am is a little bit deeper than who you see professionally. But I find enjoyment in that, just because now, like you said, it's power. Now you know that people see, well, wait a minute, which Dave am I getting? Or
Right.
they start to see the nuances, like, oh, I know that wasn't that he said something else under his breath now. But yeah, I find humor in that for some reason. I don't know why.
I think it's fun to play with people.
Yeah,
I mean, because you are playing.
yeah.
So
Now,
it's just power.
for those, because I know that people I work with actually watch my podcast or listen to my podcast. I'm not saying I play with you guys on a daily. I'm
No,
saying,
there's code switching, but there's also just different sides of everybody. I just
yeah,
think that black people haven't been allowed. I mean, the more oppressed you are, the less of yourself you're allowed to show. So,
yeah,
I have a professional way I act that is black. I mean, it's me.
mhm,
I think black is professional, and um, just like I think everybody has a professionalism that they show when they come to work. I
mhm,
just think that it's but I don't. I think it surprises people that we may not let our opinions out or certain, show all of us. But it's all me now at this point.
yeah,
It's all me. I exist as that because I don't want to be defined as one thing. But
mhm,
I do. Yeah.
yeah. No, I would say so. I've 25 years in IT, and I manage a team for a company I don't talk about because I understand the social media policies. But
Mhm.
they know I'm 100% authentic. I don't have to code switch with them. I
You
code
can
switch with
tell.
people outside of them. Um,
Right.
but it's also who I am too. My makeup is listen. You're going to get what you get, and it hasn't really gotten me professionally in trouble. I don't think, but it has found me at times telling people exactly what I felt, and they know it's authentic.
Yes.
If that makes sense. So,
Yes.
well, Randy, this was an amazing conversation. I feel like we need to do a part two because there's so much we
I've
didn't
enjoyed
uncover.
it. Yeah. And you didn't you agree? I think to be on a truthing session.
I think I did. I
I
think I
think
did, and it's
you
all recorded, so I can't even back out now.
did.
Um, but before I let you go, well, two things. One, you got to compare me to Roland Martin now. I just need to know. You don't have to answer that question.
You are both very brilliant men. Um, uh, Easy to talk to. I would say that you're calmer.
Oh, yeah, I get that all the time.
You're
Yeah,
calmer.
he's a little ball of energy, and
He's a
not to
ball of
disparage
energy.
his shape in any way, but he's a ball of energy.
Yes, he is. Yes, that's how I would say you all are different, but both brilliant men, easy to talk to.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yes.
Before I let you go, as always with my guests, if there's anything you want to promote or talk about, feel free to do so now.
Uh, all my stuff is on the boycott list right now. So you can find me on social media on RANDIB on most places, some iteration of that YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all the things. Uh, but uh, Truthing cards are sold on Amazon, but you can go to randyb.net and I'll send them to you. They're sold there too. They're sold in Walmart too, but we're boycotting them. The show is on Amazon Prime. It's
Buy
called
direct, people.
Truthing.
Buy direct.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So right now, I tell people I'm boycotting too. So I let people know I still do have people purchasing. Some people have decided to boycott through they're they're boycotting, but they are supporting black brands and black shows. So if you're one of those people, check me out on Amazon Prime, on Amazon or Walmart.
All right, Randy. Well, again, I appreciate you stepping into Dave's head. This was an amazing conversation, and I look forward to coming on to Truth and talking
Yes.
about some truth and having a good time.
I look forward to it too. Thank you so much. I have enjoyed being in your head.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
I
Take care.
appreciate you.
My favorite segment of my podcast is my GRIN, which stands for Great Reason to Be in Love with Now. First and foremost, I want to apologize to my guest, Randi B, because I said that I was going to do something at the end of all of my guest segments, my interviews with my guests, and say something every episode this season. Chalk it up to the mental, chalk it up to a great interview, which I think it was. I completely forgot to say it at the end of that interview, so I'll say it right now. Randi, may every today be the best day of your life. And I hope that's true. And I hope to see you on your Truthing Amazon TV series. I got the invite. Definitely got to take you up on that. We're going to have to talk and do some truthing on your series. So thank you again for stepping into Dave's head. As you know, if you've been a supporter of Dave's Head for any season, that March Madness to me is the best time of the year. Now, this year, the Super Bowl will certainly top that, as my Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl. So while March Madness won't be the top this year, it will probably be up there. Just the spectacle of it all, the buzzer beaters, one shining moment, all that stuff. I love, especially the first weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where you got just nonstop basketball games, and you watching. To me, prior house, I would sit there, I'd have the TV on, one channel, back of the basement, another channel, just going back and forth, surround sound going, drinks. I get, bottles of Chimay or Mad Elf. I used to do Mad Elf, and what I would do is get a case of Mad Elf in the fall, let it sit in the basement. Because the longer it sits, the stronger that beer gets. And just literally Thursday, Friday, I'm sitting there a drunken fool, but enjoying the weekend. Now, granted, you can do this with alcohol. Yes, you can do it without alcohol, but it's the experience. I love March Madness, especially the first weekend. So Modern Husbands, if you go to their website, modernhusbands.com, they have an article entitled March Madness, 9 Fun Activities, Ideas for Couples. Let me restate that. 9 fun activity ideas for couples. Now, I'm going to actually add one myself because I think that it's worth it. And I actually kind of took one out because I was like, no, I don't want to talk about this one. But so the 9th one is actually going to be mine. So we're going to do 8 of theirs and 1 of mine. So the first one is basketball theme movie marathon. And so they recommend Hoosiers, came out in 86, Coach and Carter, came out in 2005. White Men Can't Jump, 92. Blue Chips came out in 94. The Basketball Diaries came out in 95. Now, I think it's offensive that this article doesn't touch on 3 important movies. Now, yes, they are primarily black casts. That's part of it. The other part of it is they're one of my favorite movies when it comes to basketball. Loving Basketball. Duh. Come on. Came out in 2000. Above the Rim, Tupac. Hello. 1994. And He Got Game, Denzel. 1998. Now, you can do all those. That's a long day. Take from any of those. Now, if I had to pick, let me say 5 of those. Loving Basketball for sure. Above the Rim for sure. He Got Game for sure. White Men Can't Jump for sure. And then probably, we'll say Blue Chips. We'll say Blue Chips. I think that's a good one too. It's an underrated one too. But you could also put Hoosiers in there because I was a big Bobby Knight fan. So, Indiana, love the pedigree. Number 2, do-it-yourself basketball crafts. Now, they are talking about do-it-yourself basketball themed decorations, creating a mini basketball hoop out of cardboard or design custom t-shirts with your favorite team logos. Unfortunately, my TO is a Duke fan. I tolerate it. It's okay. I'm a Syracuse basketball fan. Long story behind that. If you know me, I'm an Alabama Crimson Tide football fan, but I'm a Syracuse basketball fan. Long story behind it. What I suggest, instead of this, go find a crate. Just take it old school. Go find a crate, cut it out, and you don't necessarily have to put it on a telephone pole, but, make a little old crate out of and play some basketball, just nostalgia's sake. If you go back to the 80s, 90s, crate basketball was a thing. How sometimes we were able to avoid the crate and do the proverbial swish with a crate boggles my mind. But somehow we were able to do that. Don't get it. That's like shooting double rim basketball outside. For those of you who've played basketball outside, I cannot stand double rim hoops. I just can't stand it. For me, it was always like even the slightest off, boom, that thing's ricocheting out. I just couldn't stand double rim hoops. But my thing is, do the crate or go what I call crawling basketball with your spouse. So this is, you might find a ball around the house, preferably foam, not baseball or nothing like that. You do like a laundry basket, something like that, and you crawl on your knees and you play basketball with your spouse, and you can do whatever bets you want to do. Take jump shots. You can try to spin and dunk with spin on one knee, whatever you want to do. Now there are rules of this. You can't be just walking in or kneeing all over the carpet. You got to actually bounce the ball. And so, do whatever contest you want to do. Winner gets whatever winner gets. Hey, what you do in your house is your house. So that's number 2. Number 3, I love because I love food, March Madness Cooking Challenge. And so this is a cooking competition inspired by March Madness. So you pick a theme such as game day snacks or basketball themed dishes. Me, I say, what's a better representation of basketball than meatballs? You do a meatball competition, right? You could do some jerk beef, you could do some jerk pork, you could do some impossible, my TO doesn't do beef or turkey or pork or anything like that. So impossible meatballs, gotta season them things up though. But, meatballs, and you do some sort of thing where maybe you scorch them, take a toothpick and score them like they're a basketball. I don't know. Figure it out. I'm sure somewhere you can find a basketball mold for meatballs. Somebody's out there got it. If not, you've heard it here first. I'm going to patent it. You do a basketball meatball press. Boom. I'm telling you, I got ideas. And so that's number 3. Number 4, virtual game night. Now, I started this by saying this was about couples. And so I was a little confused with this number because virtual game night, they say a game night with friends and family. What's this got to do with couples? But we're gonna let it ride. Featuring basketball themed trivia, charades, Pictionary, whatever. Now, me bringing it back to the couples theme, I say strip trivia with your spouse, because I just don't understand how we got to friends and family, but it's going to come up again, and I'm gonna have the same reaction. Number 5, a basketball shootout. I know we talked about inside. Let's go outside. So head to a local park or recreation center. Have your own basketball shootout. Granted, your spouse may not be good. You may not be good. It's not about that. It's about winning. If you're competitive, even better. Both of you are competitive. Especially if you both suck and you're competitive, because now it's just horrible basketball all over the place and neither one of y'all hitting a damn thing. But I'm all for friendly competition. And so to me, it's a great way to do couples exercising. And we're going to come to a little bit about that in a second. And if you got a little smoothness with you, if you win, look back and say, double or nothing. Loving basketball? Nobody? Okay, whatever. Number 6, sports bar crawl. Now again, started this by saying couples. We're talking about not couple stuff again, but okay. They say plan a sports bar crawl and visit different bars and restaurants to watch March Madness games. So I feel like a guy came up with this one, number 1. While this may appeal to women, there are women out there who love bar crawls and love having a great time. Maybe all the bars can be outside. If your significant other, male or female, doesn't want to be inside with a bunch of drunk people throwing beer and high-fiving you with dirty hands and all that stuff, maybe all the bars can be outside. Maybe you could do a bar crawl with all deck-based bars or patio-based bars or outside-based bars. Maybe that's what it is, and that's cool. I even said maybe even throw a little Vegas trip. If I've been to Vegas before, there are some great places to watch some games. Vegas in warm weather, you can do it all outside. Whatever you do, though, whatever you do, if you're going to do a bar crawl, don't drive. Either do walking, park walk, maybe get a hotel room for the night, or If you're in a vicinity where you can do a car service, whether Uber, Lyft, or whatever you're doing, cab, whatever, do that. Bar crawl can get out of hand quickly. Just a PSA. Thank you very much. Number 7. Um, Feels a lot like number 5, but it's okay. This is about more of a planned workout. So a basketball workout, that's more planned. So you're doing drills. You're trying to stay fit with your significant other. You're trying to increase the bond using basketball to do it. So I'm all for this one. It's a way, especially March Madness kind of brings in the spring. Spring, you get the little unseasonably warm weather, temperatures, 60s, 70s, maybe even 80s. Get out there on a basketball court before people get out there and actually start playing real basketball. And, work out with your significant other. I'm all for it. Number 8, outdoor viewing party. Host an outdoor viewing party in your backyard. Now, again, we're back to this non-couple stuff, right? That's 3 of them. Like number 4, like number 6. we're back to this, we're getting away from this couple part of this. But that's your thing, that's your thing. Outdoor viewing party is perfectly fine. Now, I say one thing I've done. I've taken it my old house. I've done the new house. I've taken my TV, set things up outside, watching fights, games, whatever. And so maybe that's something you can do with your spouse. Set something up outside if you have the ability to do that, TV or, just music or whatever. You go inside, watch some of the game, come back outside. If it's close vicinity to the TV, maybe that's the idea of the outdoor viewing party and still keeping it couple. Now, adding my own, I'm going to say this is number 9. I think a great March Madness idea is strip bingo. Go to Google and Google Couples Strip Bingo March Madness. Couples Strip Bingo March Madness. And you'll see results on Etsy and elsewhere, or even make up your own from those results. Go ahead, get creative off of the things you find in your results. Now, again, I'm not endorsing any of these things. I'm not saying Etsy is a way or Google's a way or what you find in results, that's what you should buy or anything like that. I'm saying get creative with it. And so couple strip bingo March Madness. Google that, you'll see a bunch of results. And the idea is simply this. You tailor this if you're watching a game and say you see a 3-point shot, well, you mark off that spot. You see a free throw, mark off that spot. You see a turnover, mark off that spot. Eventually you'll go bingo. And what you can do is have different prizes for bingo. So maybe this one is a massage for the rest of the quarter or half in college basketball. Or maybe it's, a foot rub, or maybe it's a little more, whatever you do in your household. Do what you do, how you do. What I said, do that. Yes. But you might find yourself having one shining moment. Or many. I hope you got that reference. So get your couples massage on this March Madness. Enjoy March Madness like I love to enjoy March Madness. Check out the website where you can find these ideas, modernhusbands.com, or create your own creatively to enjoy your couple, or enjoy, not your couple, enjoy your spouse. I want to thank Randi B, DEI Disruptor, author, speaker, and talk show host. Again, I hope to find myself on her Truthing Amazon TV series. Check it out on Amazon. Her website, randib.net, RANDIB.net. You can find her on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Randi_B, or some combination of that. So Instagram, Randi__, 2 underscores B. Facebook, Randi B. TikTok, The Randi B. YouTube, The Real Randi B. And check out her book, Thriving in Intersectionality, Immigrants, Belonging, and Corporate America. And lastly, again, Amazon, her series, Truthing, on Amazon TV. Lastly, as I started last season, I'm going to continue this season. I'm going to leave you with a quote for your thought. We talked in the beginning of this episode about consumerism and the power of the boycott, the power of the money you spend or don't spend. And I thought that was appropriate to include something around that in this quote. And so this quote is by Anna LaPay. I could be getting this pronunciation wrong. I did not look it up. I wanted to just roll off the tongue. Anna LePay. Look her up, author, writer, I believe she is. And here's a quote. Every time you spend money, you're casting a vote for the kind of world you want. We talked about the power of consumerism and power you have in your pocket, the power that's being put on display every single day, whether it's Target or TikTok or Facebook or X or any of those things. The power you put in the hands of people, the power you put in what you purchase, the power you hold back by doing nothing at all is absolute power you possess. And so I love this quote because by spending or not spending, you're letting in the frame of consumerism, in the frame of how dollars and cents works, right? In the frame of the monetary systems and all the stuff that's valuable to people who have a lot more money than you. In the frame of all that, you're casting a vote for the world you want. You're making it known or not known, which you agree with, don't agree with. And in the context of DEI, capitalism is what's on display right now. There are people who love to shout and tout capitalism until boycotts happen, until people say, I'm not spending my money with you. And then you get words thrown out like illegal and words thrown out like unfair and all these other things. When capitalism has always been about the choice consumers have to spend or not spend, or in this case, to cast their vote or to not cast their vote. That's what it's all about, the power you have. So consumerism, unapologetic, and a little madness, all great reasons to be in love with now. That's all for this episode of Dave's Head. If you enjoyed this episode, I'm sure you'll love similar content in the Alive Podcast Network app. Plus, you can support this podcast and enjoy ad-free listening to nearly 100 other Black-hosted podcasts. Download the iOS or Android app, become a member, and experience unlimited access to Black-hosted content week after week. Follow, like, and/or subscribe to this podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and/or X at Dave's Head Pod, and on YouTube at Dave's Head Podcast. For more information and links to all things Dave's Head, check out our website at daveshead.card.co. Episode premiere on the second and fourth Fridays of the month. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, enjoy life because life should be fun. Take care.